Warning: the following video contains spoilers for Death Note. If you have not completed reading the Death Note series, viewing is not recommended. Hello everyone, this is AceofSpadesFTW back with the final part of my Death Note review. If you've been keeping track, I've already done a review of the actual series, and of course I took a quick look in the second part at the special 13th edition volume. But in this last part, I'm going to be giving my opinion as a fan more than a reviewer. So I'm just going to give a few quick words about my favourite characters, least favourite, some of my favourite scenes and whatnot. Just my personal opinion. And of course, if you haven't already seen the message, if you have not read the entire series, I suggest you do turn back for your own spoiler-free pleasure. Okay, here we go. The first thing I'd like to say about Death Note, and I'm going to be repeating myself from my other videos, is that it did feel different from other things out there on the market at the moment. I mean, my collection's mostly filled up with either action-adventure or comedy-romance storylines, so to read Death Note, which is a supernatural thriller / detective storyline, it was a nice change and it worked. The only other thing I can think of that comes close to Death Note at the moment is the story Monster, which I'm currently reading, and it would be nice to see other storylines like this coming out soon. I think it's kind of ironic that Death Note is a type of storyline which brings up questions automatically about good and wrong, and is it right to kill someone, but the creators never had the intentions of trying to spread a message from their work. They were just trying to create a good storyline. Speaking of good and evil, do I think what Light was doing was a good thing? I would have to say no. I mean, it's true that crime levels dropped, and maybe killing off the world's major criminals might have made an impact at the time, but people weren't beginning to stop doing crimes because they thought it was wrong. They stopped doing it because they were scared of dying. I mean, ruling through fear would have never worked, and getting criminals to behave through intimidation meant Light had become no better than the people he was punishing. And once Light had died, and there was nothing to fear anymore, the criminals just went back into their old habits, and it was like it was before Light ever started using the Death Note. Seeing how I've just brought up Light's death, let's talk about the final conclusion. That was a great ending. It did keep me guessing right until the end. Although, I've got to give credit to anyone who read Nier's explanation in one go. That thing really did drag on for too long. I really think it was well done how they killed off Light, with him, slowly breaking down, the calm and collected Light that we've known, just laying out all his emotions at once. And he did look very desperate in these last few scenes, especially with that last attempt to kill Nier. I'd always kept wondering through the manga how they were going to kill off Light, or get rid of him, but I never really did think he'd get killed off by Ryuk. It makes me wonder how many people still remembered Ryuk's promise at this point. Nonetheless, it was a great ending, and as I've stated before, definitely had some great art in those last few pages. My favourite story arc would probably have to be the Yotsuba arc, where Light and L are working together to find out which executive is the current Kira. It's probably just nice to see those two as true friends with Light's memory gone, and I kind of like to think of it again as a what-if scenario. If Light and L found the Death Note, that's probably how they would have acted. And this story arc definitely had some of the best plot twists in the story. Light really did surprise me in this one. My least favourite story arc is probably one of those near the end, maybe around volumes 10 and 11, as these were the ones that probably had the least amount going on, and really began to drag around there before the ending. Okay, let's talk about some characters, starting with Light. To be honest, I actually didn't like him. I mean, I liked how smart he was. I mean, there's no denying his intelligence. I just hated how he used and lied to everyone. I mean, he was pretty warped by the end, which is a shame, seeing how much of a success he would have been if he had never found the Death Note. He was probably one of the biggest victims in this whole case. I think the only reason I didn't like L was I kind of had this messed up desire for Light to win. But L was definitely the less of the two evils, and with all those quirky habits, it was kind of hard not to like him. I don't think anyone would have foresaw him losing halfway through the story. This is definitely probably one of the biggest shocks in Death Note. Of course, he was avenged later, so it all worked out. Ryuk was quite a quirky character in my opinion, and definitely provided some of the better comedy moments in the story. I also liked that despite how irrelevant he seemed at times, he was actually the true winner from the story, fulfilling his desire for boredom, and after being one of the closest to Light all this time, he was actually the one to kill him off. There are quite a few people out there that don't even like Misa, but I'm actually one of those few that did like her. Again, like Ryuk, she provided some of the more lighter moments in the story. Thinking about it, she was one of the only non-die characters to put in. There's no denying she was a bit stupid at times, but I don't think she was as bad as everyone made out she was to be. I mean, she did show the reader a few times that she could think for herself and was crafty in her own right. My only problem with her? Addictions to people are wrong, especially the type of people that even after showing your heartfelt desire for them, show absolutely no acknowledgement of your existence. Isn't that right, Sakura? Mikami, I thought he was a smart guy. He definitely made a good Kira. And he was another big victim in the case, which is a shame. My only problem with him was, again, he just seemed a bit too addicted to Kira. And now that I think about it, it was kind of creepy how he kept saying delete all the time as well. Mello is another character I didn't like either. Considering he was supposed to be a replacement for L, I think he made a poor one. He just seemed too emotional to be able to compete in this three-way contest, and he always seemed to be the underdog throughout the story. It's not that he wasn't smart, I just think he made too many risks. Although he got the winnings, he always seemed to have to pay a huge price in return. Still, his interactions were the reason that the case was won in the favour of Nier, so in that sense, he was important. Nier, I definitely thought he was the better of the two heirs. I mean, he's no L, but he did make a good replacement, and he actually shares a lot of traits with L. He seemed a lot younger than he was, so it kind of made it funny that it looked like Light had been beaten by a kid. Also, take note everyone, if you want to be a super genius, you must have a strange habit. I also want to give an honourable mention to Light's father, who was another big victim in the Kira case. Despite being one of the most balanced and kind-hearted characters, his involvement in the case got his daughter kidnapped, his family hurt, and of course he eventually lost his own life. It's even more tragic considering Kira was his own son. The final thing I'm going to talk about is of course the anime series, which is the very reason I'm doing these reviews after its first release into the UK a few months back. I've only had the first 8 episodes at the moment, but I do have a few things I'd like to say about it after seeing the manga first. Looking at it from the perspective of manga to anime, I think it just shows how something as simple as colour can really change the tone of the scene, and it gives the watchers a better picture of the mood being expressed. An example of this would probably be the scene where the motorcyclist is hit by a truck after Light has written his name in the Death Note. I had always thought after reading the manga that this happened the next day after killing his first victim, but watching the anime made me realise it happened at the same night, later that day, when he had gone to late school. Even simple things when they make Light's features go all red, they just help bring out the more evil and sinister side of Light's personality. It's just amazing how even simple things like colour really help make it look better. I've never really put much thought into voice actors, but seeing how I've seen the manga first and gone to the anime, I had my own expectations, and I was actually very happy with how they've turned out so far. They've actually beat my own expectations. Ryuk, voiced by Brian Drummond, sounds a lot better than I had ever thought it would. He makes the character sound evil yet cheeky at the same time.
No reason to act surprised. I am the Shinigami Ryuk.
L, voiced by Alessandro Giuliani, give him a sophisticated and intelligent voice which I think was a good contrast to his looks and fit well with his strange personality.
The difficulty of this case lies in its unprecedented scope. And make no mistake, we're witnessing an atrocious act of mass murder, one that is unforgivable.
My only surprise came from Light himself, as I thought he'd have a more mature sounding voice, maybe even evil, but Brad Swaley does do the part well, and I have no problems with him taking it up. And thinking about it, maybe the younger voice is adding more to the illusion of him being innocent, if you get me.
Death Note? As in a notebook of death? How to use it? The human whose name is written in this notebook shall die.
Looking at the time, the last thing I'm going to say of the anime is that it stays close to the manga, with only a few minor things not taking place, which can easily be removed. So in conclusion, Death Note is a change from other manga, and it's one that's done well. Not everyone's going to like this type of change, but if you're tired of similarly done action-adventure or comedy-romance plots, then Death Note is a good place to try and start. This is AceofSpadesFTW, ending my special Full House manga anime review on Death Note. Till next time.